ヘドリアン城。
Remember to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us.
Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan.
Blah! Wow, can it get any brighter in here? Oh, bit better, but Jesus, turn down the brightness. What's up, everyone? I am the Kaiju no Kami, and this is my review of 1981's Taiyo Sentai Sun Vulcan. Sun Vulcan is an interesting Sentai series, at least in concept, if not execution. First off, it is a direct sequel to Denziman, as Denziman's lead villainess, Hidorian, returns as a servant to an evil machine empire. Furthermore, it does feature a two-part story that guest stars two sisters who are descendants of the Denji race and repeatedly shows us the scenes of Princess Denji from the Denziman film. Secondly, Sun Vulcan is the most manliest of manly teams, as no girls were allowed on the squad. At long last, men finally got the Sentai show they were hoping for. They've been waiting years to see a team that had no women on it to disrupt the manly men of the series. Too bad Toei would dumb it down a year later by putting a girl back on the team. Oh. Third, it is the first Sentai series to feature only 3 heroes without the addition of another team member later on. Well, kind of. Next, they are the first team with an animal motif. Fifth, this would be head writer Shozo Uehara's final Sentai series before Hirohisa Soda took over, and he moved on to do the first several Metal Heroes shows. Lastly, it is the final series that Toei and Marvel worked on together. Stan Lee wanted to bring Sun Vulcan to America by replacing the Japanese actors with American ones while just dubbing over the battle footage. Sound familiar? It should, since Haim Saban stole that idea and did exactly that nearly 10 years later. While in the planning stages for Sun Vulcan, Toei also did actually consider just giving Denziman a second season. However, as we all know, that did not happen. Is Sun Vulcan a worthy successor to that near masterpiece? Well, let's kick this review off to find out. The heroes. Being that Sun Vulcan only stars 3 main heroes, that must mean that each hero receives excessive amounts of character development, right? Well, you'd think that, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, that is most definitely not the case. Our first Red Ranger is Air Force pilot Ryusuke Owashi, played by Ryusuke Kawasaki. He is pretty much the equivalent of the first Miss America in Battle Fever J, in that he doesn't really do a whole lot in the first half of the series, sometimes not even appearing outside of costume, and is replaced by a cohort by the name of Takayuki Hiba. While Takayuki Godai adds a personality to Hiba than Kawasaki did with Owashi, he still doesn't do too much. The biggest change he brings is he gains his own katana as Vol Eagle, while his teammates continue to use a generic sword baton thing known as Vol Sticks. Stick! He does teach Kendo class when he isn't on the job, but that really doesn't provide him with a character arc, as his past is never explored. It is worth mentioning that Godai would go on to play Hakumenro in Kaku Ranger and voice Chainsaw Banki in Goanger.
Taiyo Sentai no Hiba desu. Yoroshiku.
The second member of the trio is Kinya Sugi's Kinya Seijima. Seijima was an oceanographer for the Navy, hence why his design is based on a shark. Seijima gets a lot more screen time compared to both Eagles, and comparatively, we learn that his family was killed by warring tribes when they were studying in Africa.
Of course!
And we get to meet his mentor, who also dies.
You serious?
Additionally, he shrinks in size when he transforms into Vol Shark. The final member of the group, and my favorite, is Asao Hayo. Except that's a cheetah.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Hyo is easily my favorite member of the team as he has the most diverse personality that is enhanced by being the most fleshed out character on the show.
夜と昼の境目だ。こっちが昼で、こっちが夜。こっちが昼、こっちが夜と、こっちが昼か。
I'm on one side. See? I'm on the other side. I'm on the East Bank. I'm on the West Bank.
We get to meet his dad in what is hands down the best relative visiting episode of the franchise thus far, where we learn his father is a rich businessman who owns 3 mountains.
こんな名刺出されてもね、田舎には3つも山があるんだ。
Hyo also loves to eat, which is what he spends most of his free time doing. Another thing I love about Hyo is just when you think he is easily tricked, he pulls a stunt like this.
おおさあついておいで行こう行こう本当にうまいんだから今時ただでこんなすごい料理を食べさせるとこがあんのか
Unfortunately, Hyo's actor, Asao Kobayashi, ruined his acting career very early on in life. While I'll get into Sun Vulcan's commander in a minute, the actor who played him was Shin Kishida, whom you should know from Return of Ultraman and Godzilla vs. Mecha Godzilla. Regrettably, Kishida died of esophagus cancer in December of 1982, and the event really messed Kobayashi up mentally. His lament over Kishida's death led him to photographing an underage high school girl and sexually assaulting her. It's quite sad that my favorite character is an absolute scumbag in the real world, but sometimes it's just how the world works. There have been plenty of masterful works of art created by some of the vilest filth known to man, and you just have to learn how to separate the art from the artist. Circling back to Kishida, he plays Daizaburo Arashiyama. Arashiyama was tasked by the United Nations to form and lead Sun Vulcan in order to protect the world against the Evo machine empire known as Black Magma. On top of being a military commander, Arashiyama runs a curry shop that is situated in a safari-themed zoo where the rangers spend a lot of their time when they are not on the job. His assistant is his daughter Misa, who also acts as Sun Vulcan's reconnaissance agent. Surprisingly, she doesn't find herself in as much peril as one would think, and she does have some moments of badassery, such as the time she dressed up as a fencing superhero known as White Rose Mask. Granted, she got her ass kicked by her opponent, the Monster of the Week with the guise of Red Rose Mask, but at least she attempted to stop her herself compared to previous agents who did little to nothing the entire series. She also has a talking dog.
怖いよもうシーシー言ったらからっきしたらしがないんだから怖い怖い シーシーもう本当に怖くないからねほらよし
We don't know if it's a robot or anything, it just talks. Aside from a bunch of reoccurring children that like to hang out at Arashiyama's curry shop, there is Sukahachi Yazawa. Yazawa just randomly shows up halfway through the series as an apprentice to Arashiyama and acts as the show's comic relief character.
紹介しよう。今日からコック見習いになった矢沢助八君だ。よろしくね。
This is a major issue I have with the series, as the show started to get quite goofy in its second half to the point where even serious characters felt like they were cranking up the stupid. I do like the suit designs for the Rangers, especially given that this is the first anime motif. The helmets are exceptional and probably the best helmets at the time. I also like that in one episode we get to learn about the materials used to make the suits when one monster tries to eat through Hiba's suit.
信じられん。バルカンスーツはどんな砲弾を受けても衝撃を吸収してしまう SA 繊維、どんな高熱にも耐えるファイヤーベスト、さらにどんな薬品にも溶けないハイパワー繊維などの多重構造になっているというのに。
Sadly, their arsenal is some of the weakest in the franchise. I already talked about the borderline boring Vol sticks. But even their finishing attacks are pretty bland. For the first 44 episodes, they finished the monster off with a volleyball. which is then upgraded to a football in 45. No idea why they waited so long to change the finisher. They just did. The villains. Black Magma's commander, Hell Saturn, may look like Darth Vader, but he's more of a Kylo Ren. He's utterly inept, boring, and does jack shit the entire show. He doesn't even once confront the Rangers and has no backstory or character development whatsoever. What makes matter worse is that his empire is situated in bumfuck nowhere Antarctica, yet he only attacks Japan despite his forces constantly losing to Sun Vulcan. In the past, organizations like Black Cross, Crime and Eagles had their main headquarters located in Japan, so it made sense for them to always be attacking Japan. Of course, they also attacked other parts of the world off-screen. In Denziman, the Vader clan also situated their base in Japan, so always attacking that country made sense too. Here, Black Magma is located in a central area of the globe, therefore he could have attacked any city in any country. Any other intelligent villain could have easily said, "Hey, you know what? This Japan thing ain't working. Let's go somewhere else in the world." Black Magma's thought process is, well, we have lost the first 17 times, but I'm sure if we try again, we'll succeed.
Are you stupid or something?
Then again, they are run by a dumb machine. So maybe its determination to attack only Japan was in its programming? There you go. That would be a great, hilarious comedy Sentai series. Someone creates an evil machine empire, but the programmer programs it so it will only attack Japan and nowhere else in the world. That would be golden. Aside from Darth Useless, Black Magma apparently has an evil sun god who is suddenly mentioned in episode 5 out of nowhere, and then occasionally is mentioned throughout the course of the series. But it makes one wonder, why the hell does a robot empire need a sun god? I won't go into detail on what this god actually is, but I will say it would have Samus from Metroid giggling. As I stated in the beginning of the review, Queen Hidorian is resurrected in this series. Well, resurrected might not be the right term because the last time we saw her in Denziman, she fled the scene. Here, we learn that she decided to take a long nap in the Arctic, which allows Darth Useless to replace her heart with a mechanical one in order to control her. I'm very confused on this matter because this is something rarely mentioned in the show, and there are times where it seems like she has indeed taken command over Saturn, as seen here. They've also really kidified Hidorian compared to how she was in Denziman. Instead of murdering girls prettier than she was, as I had previously shown there,
ヘドリアン女王の美女処刑は毎日のように続いた。
She now only has monsters cut the clothes off of women who wear the same brand as her. Fortunately, Soga appears to still be having fun with the character, and she does still bring a lot of personality to her. It's just that she doesn't feel like she is Hidorian anymore. They could have called her the angry mechanical witch Mecha, and it would have had the same effect. In fact, it probably would have improved her characterization considering I wouldn't be comparing her exploits in Denziman to how she is here.
What the hell was that?
We will never speak of this again.
One of Hedorion's henchwomen from Vader shows up a ways into the series by the name of Amazon Killer. Killer is played by Yuki Kagawa, who was Gilmaza in Jaspion and Amazonis in Spider-Man.
大凧モンガーの超音波で太陽戦隊の地下要塞の位置がつかめました。あとは総攻撃あるのみ。
It was so nice that after so many episodes, the show remembered it was a sequel to Denziman, even if it didn't do too much with that aspect of her being a part of the Vader clan, outside of it being some fan service wank for Hedorian to say this.
そなたがいれば万力魔王ごときに邪魔されることもなかっただろう。誠に無念じゃった。
Towards the end of the show, we also get to meet a former partner to Killer under the name Inazuma Ginga. It is here where a slight hint is made as to what Uehara's next Toku show was going to be.
ホテルの一室が銀河警察の独房だったとはな。無論脱獄するのに一日とはかからなかった。
I wonder if that means the Space Sheriff series takes place in the same universe as Denziman and Sun Vulcan. Huh. As with everything else in the show, Killer doesn't do too much beyond being that normal loser field general. For our final main villains, there is a quartet of girls called the Zero Girls. Except for 01, who is the only girl with a personality, they are all just one step above being as worthless as the Machine Men grunts. Actually, the Machine Men did a better job of almost defeating the Rangers at one point when they took on the traits of a crab, compared to the Zero Girls at all times in the series. It just continues to show how pointless they were. There was one more set of operatives Black Magma had, known as Dark Q. Dark Q were mechanical spies who would impersonate a human in order to gather intel or even locate the base of some Vulcan. While they were pretty much the Kenny of Sun Vulcan, it was a nice change of pace from what Sun Vulcan's predecessors had done, so it vexes me as to why they stopped using them when the show's tone changed. Then again, after the tone changed, Toei probably considered them to be too dark for this show. Seriously, tone down that light! Although, some would probably consider Black Magma the most nefarious group ever because they have an episode plot to kill all dogs.
昨夜、夢ヶ丘町で犬が大量に変死するという事件が起きました。死んだ犬は200匹以上。今のところ原因は分かっておりません。
All dogs go to heaven.
The monsters of the week are just called mongers. They're robotic creatures despite looking far more organic than the organic monsters the Vader clan had. I can't say they really grasped me due to this, as I would have rather had full-on machine-looking beasts over what we actually got. I'm not even sure why Hell Saturn wanted his creations to look like organic creatures considering how opposed to organics he was, but whatever. This show isn't worth dawdling on this aspect. There are a couple that I did like, such as Buffalo Monger, Hungry Monger, who is clearly a pothead. I was prepared this time. Fernmonger, Satan Monger, and Sea Snake Monger.
今年の夏はうんと真っ黒になるぞ。オイルを塗ってと。
They grow because their mechanized bodies can change shape. the Mecha. Battle Fever J introduced to the world of Sentai a giant mecha, Denziman provided a transforming machine, and Sun Vulcan continues the revolution with the combining robots. Sun Vulcan Robo is the name of this giant bot that is formed by the combining of a land-type vehicle and a jet one.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up words and phrases and clauses.
I can't say the individual vehicle designs for Sun Vulcan Robo interest me in the slightest. However, I do like the look of his overall combined form. It's blue and silver with red, black, and yellow highlights throughout. I really do love the red and yellow shield he wields, as it pops out like the sun across a blue sky. Beyond its design, I can't say any of the mech battles in the show held my attention, as I found the vast majority of them to be quite tedious. I do like that the carrier mech, Vulcan Jaguar, serves more of a purpose than just bringing Sun Vulcan to the Rangers, but even that can't bring excitement to these monotonous fights. The effects and music. While the effects work is pretty much on par with what I had to say about Denziman, it does feature some really impressive camera work from time to time. There were a lot of fights that featured the gliding camera style I am constantly talking about throughout Soda's era of the show. And I mean a lot. Alternatively, there's very little in the way of unique fight choreography, as most of it is pretty by the numbers. Michiaki Watanabe once again helmed the show's score, so you know what to expect here from its music. It also includes quite a bit of music carried over from Denziman, including the Goron sounding theme I talked about in my review for that show.
洪水や鉄砲水を表してるんだ。
どういうことです？
木を切りすぎると山の神が怒るという。
Nevertheless, there are a couple of tracks I really enjoyed hearing.
地雷だ。
This time around, there are two ending themes, both sung by Akira Kushida. The first is a more upbeat melody titled Wakasa wa Plasma. The second, Ichitasu Nitasu Sun Vulcan, is a lot sillier and rather boring in my book. As for the opening theme, which is simply the title of the show, it is sung by Kushida with the assistance of Karugi73, and it's fine for what it is. Honestly though, none of the closings nor opening song hold a candle to those featured in Denziman. They're not even memorable, as I still find myself hearing the Denziman themes in my head compared to the Sun Vulcan ones. In fact, I've pretty much forgotten them already, and I finished the show 3 days ago. Finally, Sun Vulcan will have these random songs that occur a few times at the end of a show that features the Rangers singing and dancing with a group of kids. I have no idea if these were planned to be there intentionally, or if they were just thrown in because the show ran under the clock and they needed something to extend the minutes. If it is the former, then they are horribly out of place and do not fit with the tone revolving around the show. If it was the case of just needing to extend the runtime of the episode, then that's poor writing. It's a lose-lose situation no matter what the excuse is. The episodes. I do have to give Sun Vulcan some credit despite its utter blandness and execution, as it did have a couple of top contenders for my favorite episode of the show. I really did enjoy the two-parter with the Denji sisters, the one where Misa takes up the guise of White Rose Mask, and the one where a car window keeps opening and closing between camera angles. But ultimately, my favorite episode of the series is the one with Hyo's dad. This episode is titled Asao Hyo's Father. It was just without a doubt the one I had the most fun with, as Hyo's dad comes into town to visit his son, learning he quit the military team he was with.
太陽戦隊は秘密機関である。たとえ親兄弟といえども、簡単に打ち明けるわけにはいかないのだ。
He tracks him down, gives him a good talking to, which also leads to Killer trying to deceive him, of which he recognizes quite easily.
あんたの目じゃよ。邪悪な光を放ってメラメラと燃えとる。
Naturally, she kidnaps him and we get a really kick-ass fight scene between Hyo and what may be the coolest looking manga of the series. Not to mention the amazing camera work towards the end. As I said earlier in the review, it is without a doubt the best episode featuring a relative coming to check up on the well-being of one of the main heroes, while also being the best of the series.
財布がない。
どうなさいました？
財布をすられたらしいんだ。
Now, we've all been there.
As for my least favorite episode, this is actually quite disappointing because The Accursed Ghost started out as a really intriguing episode where Cursemonger brought Dracula, Jeanne d'Arc, and Billy the Kid back from the dead as ghosts. Assuming you can ignore the fact that they all look Japanese instead of white, the trio of ghosts would go out and haunt people while trying to take out Sun Vulcan in the process. It had some atmosphere, some bits of horror, but then this happens.
あるものはただ人間たちへの憎しみだけだ。
なぜそんなにも人間たちのことを。
祖国フランスのために戦った私を人は魔女として処刑したのだ。
人々の罵りと憎しみを受け孤独のままこの世を去った。
What?
今もこの胸に打ち込まれた悔いの痛みがうつく。
After that, all of the momentum in the episode induced in his first two-thirds deflated like a wet fart, souring the experience. It is actually quite frightening in how symbolic this single episode is at representing Sun Vulcan's quality as a whole. The movie. Like Denziman, Sun Vulcan had a theatrical film. Unlike Denziman, it's pretty uneventful. It takes place after Hiba has taken over his Volt ego and features Killer kidnapping children to get to him. That's pretty much it. That's the entire plot. Lamest execution ever. Oh, and Jaguar can suddenly change his eye expressions.
Oh, that's stupid! Really stupid.
In the end, Sun Vulcan just couldn't live up to Denziman. It wasn't bad enough that the Denziman never even make an appearance, but watching the show go from serious to silly in its entire run was very depressing. As such, I am going to be giving Sun Vulcan a generous but average 3 out of 5 grown-ups in spandex. I am glad to have finally seen it, it's just that it didn't live up to its full potential. I also have to wonder why it is so highly regarded in Japan. You'd think they would love Denziman more considering it had higher ratings and was just the better show between the two. Unless you are someone who has to see every Sentai series, I'd say skip this one. It's very uneventful. Until next time, bye.